It's believed that a UFO is sighted somewhere in the world every 6 minutes, and while many of these can easily be explained as aircrafts, astronomical objects and light phenomena, some can't be debunked so easily. In this list we take a look at 5 people who have had terrifying encounters with UFOs and aliens. The Cash-Landrum incident was a reported unidentified flying object sighted from the United States in 1980, which witnesses insist was responsible for damage to their health. It's one of very few UFO cases to result in civil court proceedings. It can be classified as a close encounter of the second kind, due to its reported physical effects on the witnesses and their automobile. On the evening of December 29, 1980, Betty Cash, Vicky Landrum and Colby Landrum, Vicky's 7-year-old grandson, were driving home to Texas in Cash's car. At about 9 PM while driving on an isolated 2-lane road in dense woods, the witnesses said they observed a light above some trees. They initially thought the light was an airplane approaching Houston Intercontinental Airport and gave it little notice. A few minutes later on the winding roads, the witnesses saw what they believed to be the same light as before, but it was now much closer and very bright. The light they claimed came from a huge diamond-shaped object which hovered at about treetop level. The object's base was expelling flame and emitting significant heat. Vicky Landrum told Cash to stop the car, fearing they'd be burned if they approached any closer. Anxious, Cash considered turning the car around but abandoned this idea because the road was too narrow. Cash and Landrum got out the car to examine the object. Colby was terrified and Vicky Landrum quickly returned to the car to comfort the frantic child. Cash remained outside of the car, mesmerised by the bizarre sight. The witnesses said the heat was strong enough to make the car's metal body painful to touch. Cash said she had to use her coat to protect her hand from being burnt when she finally re-entered the car. When she touched the car's dashboard, Vicky Landrum's hand pressed into the softened vinyl, leaving an imprint that was evident weeks later. Investigators cited this handprint as proof of the witness's account. However, no photograph of the alleged handprint exists. The object then moved to a point higher in the sky. As it ascended over the treetops, the witnesses claimed that a group of helicopters approached the object and surrounded it in tight formation. Cash and Landrum counted 23 helicopters. With the new road clear, Cash drove on, claiming to see glimpses of the object and helicopters in the distance. After the UFO and helicopters left, Cash took the Landrums home, then retired for the evening. That night they all experienced similar symptoms, though Cash to a greater degree. All suffered from nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, a burning sensation in the eyes, and feeling as though they suffered sunburns. The extent of the injuries was so great she was forced to close her businesses and never worked again. Her life became a series of hospital stays, many of them in intensive care. Mrs. Cash was a hero in the fight against government UFO cover-ups, and brought hope to other victims of UFO incidents. She was devoted to family and friends and never allowed her illness to prevent her from helping others to cope with the trauma of UFO close encounters. On the night of October 21st, 1978, Frederick Valentich radioed into air traffic control in Melbourne with some strange news. An unidentified metallic craft was toying with his Cessna. No one ever saw him or his aircraft again. This all happened during the largest wave of UFO sightings Australia had ever seen. Over 50 reports were uncovered from the area of Valantich's disappearance on that day alone. Some reported classic cigar-shaped crafts while others saw star-shaped objects with lights that looked like silver rain. Electronic interference was noted on a number of these reports. Roy Manifold has set up a time-lapse camera to capture the sunset off the coast, but found something strange when developed. There appeared to be an unexplained object with an exhaust cloud in one of the pictures. According to Roy, these were taken just 20 minutes before Valentich's last transmission. Experts at an Arizona-based UFO organization analysed the photos and concluded that the object must have been moving at 200 miles per hour. Some have suggested that this could be the UFO that kidnapped Frederick Valentich. On September 16th, 1994, approximately 60 children between 5 and 12 were playing outside their school on the outskirts of the capital of Zimbabwe. They saw a large spaceship and several small crafts gliding over the scrubland. The spacecraft landed just beside their playground. The children claimed they were approached by beings from the ship, and the whole encounter lasted about 15 minutes, with all the adults in a meeting inside the school. It wasn't until the kids returned to class that the adults realised that something had happened. The day continued normally, but it wasn't long before the parents of children who wouldn't stop talking about aliens started making phone calls. In the days after the encounter, the kids were interviewed. All the children told similar stories and drew similar pictures of what they'd seen. When filmmakers tracked some of them down in 2014, they stuck to their stories. It was also clear that their lives had been affected by the experience. At the time, one little girl, only known as Elsa, said, "I got the feeling he was interested in all of us. He looked sad and without love. In space there is no love, and down here there is." She also said that the feeling of hopelessness persisted. Like all the trees will go down and there will be no air. People will be dying. Those thoughts came from the man's eyes. 10-year-old Isabel said much the same in her interview. "We were trying not to look at him because he was scary. My eyes and feelings went with him. We are doing harm to Earth." All the children described the man as small with huge eyes. This event occurred at the end of a series of UFO sightings in the area. Just what the children saw is still debated. In 1967, Robert Richardson of Ohio struck an unknown object with his car. The object immediately vanished but left one small piece of evidence, a lump of metal. When Richardson sent the metal to the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, he found himself the center of unwanted attention. 2 men in black agents driving a black Cadillac turned up on his doorstep. The men did not show him any identification and Richardson did not ask to see any. Their smart black suits were enough to imply that they were authority figures. It was not until the 2 men had left that Richardson began to think the meeting was suspicious. He had told nobody about his experience other than his wife and the researchers at the research center. Furthermore, the Cadillac, which was a 1953 model, appeared to be in mint condition as if brand new, and it was marked with unregistered plates. 1 week later, 2 more men in black suits came to his door. This time they asked him to hand over the metal artifact. When Richardson told them that he'd sent it away to be analysed, they'd said he'd better get it back and threatened to harm his wife if he did not. Richardson never did hand over the metal, but his wife was never harmed. The second set of Men in Black agents to speak to Richardson have been described as foreign, as have many Men in Black officers. They are quite typically olive-skinned or possibly wearing makeup and having Asian or perhaps Native American features. Although this might not seem particularly unusual for government agents today, it certainly would have been odd back in the 1950s, 60s and 70s when the Men in Black were at their most active. Perhaps the strangest thing about the Men in Black would seem to be their intimidation tactics rarely work, although there are many cases in which people have been effectively silenced that we do not know about. In fact, many witnesses of UFO-related phenomenon have come forward and shared their stories, despite warnings by the Men in Black, and would seem to have been urged by feelings of defiance. What's more, they are also able to add their Men in Black encounter to the story, convinced that the government is trying to cover up some dark secret. If they are, this would be an ineffective way of doing so. Their failure to follow up on their threats is almost universal, and they rarely exercise the powers we know the actual US government has at their command. This has caused some to claim that the Men in Black are in fact an anti-government organisation, and that they use reverse psychology to encourage people to publicise their UFO encounters, and further accuse the US government of orchestrating a cover-up. Other theories, however, claim that an alien force is behind the Men in Black, suggesting that Men in Black agents might be aliens in human form. At about 1:15 AM on March 31st, 1993, in what has been dubbed as the Cosford Incident, there were dozens of sightings across Western Britain of triangular-shaped UFOs moving across the sky at speed. There were sightings in Devon, Cornwall and the West Midlands, but it was accounts given by the military and Met Office personnel at both RAF Cosford and RAF Shawbury which gave the reports greater prominence. A report to the MOD by Nick Pope, who ran the government UFO project, said, "It seems that an unidentified object of unknown origin was operating in the UK air defence region without being detected on radar. This would appear to be of considerable defence significance, and I recommend that we investigate further." An MOD police patrol reported seeing bright lights in the sky over RAF Cosford. The officers called the meteorological officer at Shawbury to tell him to look out for a UFO. He then claimed to have seen a vast triangular-shaped craft flying at about 200 feet which made a low humming noise, and fired a narrow beam of light which swept the ground. The UFO was seen by a patrol of RAF police based at RAF Cosford. Their official police report stated that the UFO passed over the base at great velocity at an altitude of approximately 1,000 feet. 2 white lights with a faint red glow at the rear were sighted, with no engine noise being heard. The RAF police report also contained details of a number of civilian UFO sightings that they had been made aware of in the course of making inquiries with other military bases, civil airports and local police. Most described 2 bright white lights speeding to the southeast, leaving trails of luminous vapour. Some described a third light, giving the impression of a triangular object. Many people cite the incident as a major indicator of the existence of alien life. So that was 5 encounters with UFOs and aliens. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more countdown videos.